A friend is having issues with her SRP 60 ribber. That's a silver reed ribber. We have an SRP 50 here, and it is enough alike to use to show you what to look for if your pitch, half pitch adjustment is not working properly, which is the trouble she's having.
All right, here's your two number sequences right here, and they're staggered. So we're on 7 here on pitch, and then when we go to half, we're on 7 on the bottom. And the little red line in there is your indicator.
And this is what causes the needles to either oppose the needles on the main bed or to alternate with them.
Right, now let's go back to the pitch side. I will flip this over for you and show you what it's doing. Now we're on pitch, half pitch. See this plate? Now we've got a knitting friend that says hers isn't doing anything. So it's got to have come loose somewhere in here.
To work on the pH lever, you need to get the ribber out of its metal casing. If you don't know how, look up this movie. It shows you the details.
All right, you can see the groove in this lever plate. When you move the lever, see how it's now moving the machine because I have this plate on the table. But that's all it does is one side of this slot to the other. And if you'll notice, the spring is relaxed here. It's also relaxed here. So it's only in the middle of the throw that there's pressure on the spring. So since hers is not working, it has to be the spring is gone and it's not staying put, or the knob, the post on the bottom here.
But it's a lot more likely that the spring is missing or broken.
Right.
Or just attached.
But these two screws, I've moved some needles out of the way, but those two screws, if you take them out, this will come right off. But now what you have to do that is get your raise and lower lever completely out of the way. Just as if you were dropping this down by releasing it and letting it go down. Let me flip it so you can see.
I think it's very likely that the spring that is missing or detached is somewhere in this lady's case.
Right. But see, this is what will have to come off. There you go. That's how you do that.
And now you can get to where you need to be.
Right. Now, when you go back to the bottom and you see this plate moving when the lever twists, we'll go ahead and take those two screws out. That's your plate and spring. And if you'll notice, the spring had to stretch a little for me to get that off. Here's the post right here. This is the post that rides in that slot to get this to rotate.
So once you locate the spring,
right,
you would seat it as it is appearing here.
Right.
And then to reassemble, you would
put this back on. I just lifted the spring off, and you can see it's got an easy on-off fit to show you that this piece rotates on this boss from the top. So this is what it looks like when it's in place and the screws are back on. So this post right there, a little black post, doesn't stick up very far, but that's what rides the slot like that. So the whole thing is held in place by this plate. The rotary section is held in place by that little boss. Now that could be broken. That could have worn out. You can look at it. It's not very thick at all. It relies on this sitting on it very snugly, and then this plate being screwed down.
If that's the case, you'll need a new part.
Right.
But a spring is the more common thing to go.
Yeah. Or you could have lost this little post right here.
We're going to just be fairly quiet for a minute and let you watch the reassembly process. I'll stay as close in as I can for you.
Now see, that's moving the bracket back and forth per pitch and half pitch, and there's your indicator. But it's not going to stay in either one because it's just loose.
Jack went into a lot of detail before actually putting this back together because it's very hard to keep his hands out of your view while actually working on it. But there it is, the spring is reattached.
All right, we're going to include this because we hear this a lot. People say, oh, the gate pegs are closer to the main bed on one end and not on the other. These gate pegs right here. All right, and this adjusting lever is the same type movement as your pitch half pitch. It's slotted. This little lever's got a round end under this screw, and it's slotted so that if you move it up, they go closer together. If you move it this way, they go farther apart. The problem being you have to do it with the ribber mounted on the brackets with the main bed. You have to reach in here with an 8mm, I believe, open end wrench and just loosen that nut. Then this will move up and down. If you'll notice, I'm going to bring the other end over. This one is in a very different position from the one we just looked at. It's almost closed up here. But that's about 1/8 of an inch or so of play that you can get here. So your brackets, if they're the right brackets for the ribber in the main bed, they'll put the gate pegs right close together. If they're wider on one end and narrow on the other end, or vice versa, this is the adjustment. But you'll notice that when the ribber bed is mounted like this, those adjustments are underneath here. So there it is. I've got my finger on it now. So it's on the inside of the release lever. Well, I've actually laid on the ground with a pillow under my head. But see, there's the nut that you need to loosen, and you just loosen it so that this is stiff, but you can get it to move. But those two adjustments will make these gate pegs move closer to the main bed and farther away from the main bed. The rule of thumb that I was told by the ones that went to school for this is that a credit card should sit between these needles on the ribber and the main bed and not just drop through.
I think you meant gate pegs.
Yeah, the gate pegs.
The two sets of gate pegs.
It should go in there and you turn it loose and it'll stay. But it should slip in there, and these will be about like this. So it's sitting, and it should stay sitting there, and it should be the same on either end of this row of gate pegs.